Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, beta, today we want to go ahead and we want to do an important topic, which is trips and trims. Okay. It's very, very important from exam point of view and can definitely go ahead and be
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, beta, today we want to go ahead and
can definitely be asked in exam. Now, exam mein they can go ahead and they can ask you about what are intellectual property rights, what are uh, the different issues related to intellectual property rights. What is the importance and role of strong IPR ecosystem? What is India's current scenario? All these kind of questions can be asked in exam. Let me just write down those questions for you. So they can go ahead and they can ask you about intellectual property right, which we have covered in the last classes, right? They can ask you about the issues related to intellectual property right, ठीक है, which we have to discuss. We discussed the advantage and disadvantage, but issues को detail में करना है. They can go ahead and they can ask you about the role and importance of strong intellectual property right ecosystem. They can ask you upon about India's current scenario. They can ask you about the significance of TRIPS and TRIMS. Significance of TRIPS and TRIMS. ठीक है, तो ये सारे ही क्वेश्चंस जो हैं, the features of TRIPS and TRIMS, they can go ahead and they can ask you anything related to that. ठीक है, for today I want to go ahead and I want to do TRIPS and TRIMS in detail, but these are not the only two agreements that we have. There are multiple agreements that we have to go ahead and study, but these are two very famous and important agreements, right? So let's begin by talking a bit more about what is TRIPS. Right. But when we say TRIPS, the full form of TRIPS is trade related aspect of intellectual property rights. Of intellectual property rights, right? Now, this, this TRIPS, this is basically an international legal agreement, right? And it's an agreement which is signed by all the members of World Trade Organization. And the aim is to give the standard for intellectual property, right? The aim is to understand कि, when we are doing trade, तो of course, ऐसा हो सकता है कि एक पर्टिकुलर टेक्नोलॉजी एक पर्टिकुलर कंट्री में डेवलप हुई हो पर दूसरी जगह पे यूज हो रही हो. So whatever is the trade related aspect of um, of the IPR of intellectual property, right? It goes ahead and it takes that in detail. It explains that in detail, right? So please write down TRIPS agreement is a binding. Binding means it has to be followed. If you're signing it, तो it is compulsory to be followed. Non-binding का मतलब होता है कि compulsory नहीं है follow करना. I mean, you can skip it also. But a binding agreement is any agreement which you definitely have to go ahead and you have to follow. So TRIPS agreement is a binding multilateral agreement under the World Trade Organization, WTO, that establishes minimum standard for practicing, protecting, and enforcing intellectual property rights. IPR. So basically what is happening here is that we are making some agreement beta. और इस एग्रीमेंट में हम बता रहे हैं कि मिनिमम क्या स्टैंडर्ड हमें चाहिए आईपीआर के लिए. व्हाट इज द मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड फॉर प्रोटेक्टिंग एंड एनफोर्सिंग आईपीआर, राइट? नाउ इट वाज अडॉप्टेड in 1994 during Uruguay round negotiations, right? It came into force on 1st January 1995. It applies to all WTO member states. तो बेटा ये कब आया? This came in 1994. कौन से राउंड में आया? यूरुग्वे राउंड में. Date 1st January 1995 से it had to come into effect and it is applicable for all WTO members. So it's a binding agreement. If you are a member of WTO, then you have to follow this, right? Then you have to go ahead and you have to follow this. Is it clear? Okay. Now, what exactly are the objectives of TRIP? Objectives. So when we talk about the objective of TRIPS, you should be very clear with the definition itself, जो हमारा full form है, you should be very clear what its objective should be. So objective, as the word says, trade related IPR, trade related aspect of intellectual property, right? So objective is that whenever trade is happening, whatever IPR we are talking about, whatever, wherever intellectual property right is possible, we are able to protect the need of the people. We are able to protect and benefit the people, right? So there are 7 main, objectives that have been laid down, right? So let's write those objectives down. So the first one is promotion of technological innovation. माने अगर कोई भी नई टेक्नोलॉजी बनती है, कहीं पे भी कुछ नया R&D हो रहा है टेक्नोलॉजिकल सेक्टर में, so that should be completely protected, right? It should be completely protected. That is what it means. That is the meaning of promotion of technological innovation. Is this clear? So please write down. It refers to encouraging the creation, development, and improvement of product, process, services through strong IPR. Through strong IPR. तो हम क्या बोल रहे हैं कि whoever will be the innovator will have exclusive right over their product, and the innovator, uh, because we will give them exclusive right over the product, therefore the innovator will have economic incentive that they will invest in R&D, right? So it ensures that innovator have exclusive right over their creation for a time bound, giving them economic incentive to invest in R&D. Just a bit of when we talk about patent protection, so for 20 years, you have exclusive right for your invention. Okay. Copyright protection for creators of literary, artistic, software work, right? Industrial designs, layout designs, right? Or geographical indications like region-based indications. ये सब चीजें ट्रिप्स के अंदर आती हैं, और इससे हम इंश्योर करते हैं कि आपका जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल इनोवेशन है वो प्रमोट हो पाए. We promote better technology. We promote you to innovate. Now, when there is no IPR system, if there is no IPR protection, then innovators will be at risk of losing their returns, right? Because there can be copying, there can be imitation. So by giving the innovators IPR, strong IPR, we are giving them economic incentive to do technological innovation, right? Especially, just understand that in any technology, we have a lot of R&D involved, research and development involved. कोई भी नया technology बनाने के लिए R&D लगता है. And this research and development, it comes at a very high cost and uncertainty. माने मैंने पैसा लगाया, मैंने कुछ नया ढूंढने की कोशिश की, जरूरी नहीं है वो नई चीज सक्सेसफुल हो. You would have watched Shark Tank. Many people, they invest their money, right, into a new startup. Doesn't mean it will be successful, right? So R&D is both costly and uncertain. और अगर ये कॉस्ट लगाने के बाद और अनसर्टेनिटी करने के बाद, if someone tells me that my technology can be easily copied, then there is no reason why I will invest my money. So IPR gives me a way to recover my investment. IPR ensures that the technology will only belong to me, right? And then it also brings market confidence. अगर strong IPR system होगा तो foreign direct investment होगी technology intensive sectors में, right? So therefore we can see that automatically technology will be promoted when there will be a strong IPR system, right? Also, what we go ahead and what we notice is that it is also linked with technology transfer. Okay? Firms are willing to share technology with countries only which have strong IPR system. हाँ, तो अगर मैंने एक टेक्नोलॉजी बनाई, मैं सिर्फ उस कंट्री में उस टेक्नोलॉजी को लॉन्च करना चाहूंगी जहां पे आई एम प्रिटी श्योर दैट नो वन विल कॉपी माय टेक्नोलॉजी, where I am sure that that country has a strong IPR system, right? So therefore, for global technology dissemination, माने अगर टेक्नोलॉजी को ट्रांसफर होना है एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे, एक कंट्री से दूसरी जगह पे, तो उसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि फर्म्स को कॉन्फिडेंस हो उस कंट्री पर. And how will that confidence come? If there is a strong IPR system in place. So the first reason, the first objective of a strong IPR system, right, of having these TRIPS agreement is promotion of technological innovation. Okay, write down the second one, beta. Transfer and dissemination of technology. अब आपको लगेगा कि these can be clubbed together also. माने इनको अलग अलग लिखने की जगह we can write them together also. But I am going to go as per Article 7 of TRIPS. And I am listing these objectives according to the article number 7 of TRIPS. Okay. So the second objective that we have, that is transfer and dissemination of technology. पहला बोलता है कि हमें टेक्नोलॉजी को प्रमोट करना है कि टेक्नोलॉजी बने. अब टेक्नोलॉजी बन तो गई, बट अब वो टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर सिर्फ तब होगी दूसरी कंट्री में अगर उस कंट्री का आईपीआर, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट, स्ट्रॉन्ग होगा. सो राइट डाउन, फैसिलिटेट global sharing of technology between developed and developing countries. It ensures that IPR protection does not become barrier to technology access. Especially for sectors vital to development, like health, agriculture, and education. So we also want to go ahead and ensure that the transfer of technology takes place well, that there is global transfer of technology between the developed and developing countries, right? And for that global transfer, we want to go ahead and we want to make sure that, for that global transfer, we need to go ahead and we need to make sure that we have a strong IPR system in place. At the same time, we don't want IPR protection to become a barrier. ऐसा ना हो कि कोई, मतलब क्योंकि सबको एक एक आईपीआर प्रोटेक्शन मिल गया है तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी को ट्रांसफर ही ना करें और डेवलपमेंट ही ना हो पाए. सो आईपीआर प्रोटेक्शन should become like a catalyst for global knowledge transferring, for global knowledge sharing, rather than becoming a barrier. It should be a catalyst. मतलब उसको स्पीड अप करना चाहिए ग्लोबल नॉलेज शेयरिंग को, ना कि रोकना चाहिए ग्लोबल नॉलेज शेयरिंग को, right? So for example, I understand that there are patents, that there are copyright issues, but we should also encourage licensing, right? We should also encourage that, okay, you have the patent right, but why don't you go ahead and why don't you sell these patents? Why don't you sell whatever technology you have created for some price, right? So that way we will be able to encourage the knowledge sharing. Then there is something which is called as compulsory licensing. इसी के अंदर बेटा एक चीज आती है जिसे बोलते हैं compulsory licensing. Compulsory licensing basically allows government to authorize local production of patented good without the patent holder. तो अगर कोई चीज ऐसी है जो बहुत ज्यादा नेसेसरी चीज है, बहुत ज्यादा इमरजेंसी केस है, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल someone has, suppose imagine COVID came in 2019, बट 2017 में सपोज किसी फर्म ने कोविड जैसे डिसीज के लिए पहले ही कुछ टेक्नोलॉजी क्रिएट करके उसका पेटेंट लिया हुआ हो, राइट? Then, when in 2019, I'm just giving you a hypothetical scenario. When in 2019, COVID actually hit the economy and government realized that there was already a patent by some firm, suppose, then the government will do compulsory licensing. Government will allow local production of it without taking the consent of that firm. ठीक है? So under certain health emergencies, the government can authorize local production of patented goods. जो भी पेटेंट हुआ है आप उसका लोकल प्रोडक्शन करवा सकते हो without the consent of patent holder. That is called as compulsory licensing. So compulsory licensing also ensures that there is knowledge sharing and use whenever there is an emergency, right? Then there is also something called as technical cooperation. Technical cooperation. Developed countries are obligated to provide incentive to enterprises and institutions to promote technology transfer to at least to the least developed countries, right? Or to the developing countries. Least developed country को आप developing country भी बोल सकते हो या underdeveloped country भी बोल सकते हो. तो basically ये technical cooperation, this is article 66.2 and this is article 31. टेक्निकल कोऑपरेशन ये बोलता है कि जो भी कंट्री डेवलप्ड कंट्री होगी उसको अपनी कंट्री के अंदर फर्म्स को इंसेंटिव देना है, उनको बोलना है कि आप जो भी टेक्नोलॉजी बना रहे हो उसको आप डेवलपिंग कंट्री में या लीस्ट डेवलप्ड कंट्री में एलडीसीज में आप जाकर प्रमोट करोगे, राइट? सो दिस गोज अहेड एंड सेज डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज are obligated to provide incentive to enterprises and institutions to promote technology transfer to least developed countries. To least developed countries. Okay. So basically, what we are saying through this, how can you become a catalyst to growth, right? How will you not become a barrier and at the same time become a catalyst to knowledge transfer by doing these things through compulsory licensing, through technical cooperation, etc. So aim ye hai that we go ahead and we bridge the technological gap. Developing nations, we want developing nations to access modern technology from developed nation so that they can increase their productivity. We also want public interest. We want to ensure that critical technologies through compulsory licensing, we want public interest. हमें चाहिए कि जो भी क्रिटिकल टेक्नोलॉजी है लाइक मेडिसिन या एग्रीकल्चर में या इन्वायरमेंट में, दे रीच द मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल व्हेन दे आर नीडेड द मोस्ट. हाँ, उसके केस में हम पेटेंट को एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे, हम उसको वी विल स्टिल locally produce it whenever they need the most, right? And we also need global integration. We want that developed and developing countries should be integrated together, right? So this is the second objective, beta, transfer and dissemination of technology, right? Is there any doubt? Transfer and dissemination of technology.